Hi, this is Logan Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition and what you need and what you do not need to play Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. So why are we talking about this today? You guys know what you need to play Dungeons & Dragons, right? You probably don't, right? So there's new canon, all right? So what do I mean by canon? So basically, Wizards of the Coast on their own Dungeons & Dragons YouTube channel. So I'm starting to pay a lot of attention to the Dungeons & Dragons YouTube channel. And the reason why is, if you've been paying attention, social media is super powerful now. Reddit just like melted Wall Street, like, you know, like a couple people on a on a website, got a few people behind them, and like might have killed shorting. Like it's incredible how powerful social media is now, right? So basically, most social media sites are a bunch of people talking about things that they don't own, that they're just fans of, things that they're tangentially connected to, right? Or that are associated with, right? But Dungeons & Dragons is owned by Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro Gaming, and they have their own channel, their own YouTube channel, right? So when they put something on that channel, they're saying this is Dungeons & Dragons, right? And basically the things they put on there are Dungeons & Dragons. The things they don't put on there are not Dungeons & Dragons. And they get to choose because they own it. It's one of the benefits of ownership, right? So I've been paying really close attention to Wizards of the Coast's very specific YouTube channel, and they are saying some fascinating things, and we're going to break it down today. So recently they did two videos. It was with a new lady. I've never seen her connected to Wizards of the Coast in any way. Pretty sure she was an actress. And they did two 3-minute videos about Dungeons & Dragons. The first one was how do you play Dungeons & Dragons, and the second one was what do you need to play Dungeons & Dragons. And these are clearly videos that are designed to remove the incredible complexity and the incredible abstraction that Dungeons & Dragons currently has attached to it. Basically, I think the whole world wants to play D&D, and then when they come to D&D, they're like, oh my gosh, what is this? 750 pages of rules minimum? And like, this is outrageously difficult, and it is. Playing Dungeons & Dragons is far too complex and abstract, and I think Wizards of the Coast is 100% aware of it, but they're also really jammed up, right? They're like 6 years into 7 years now, right? Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition came out in 2014. We're in 2021. They're 7 years into edition. Because of the pandemic, I don't think they're going to be able to put out an edition for at least 3 years, right? So they are really SOL. Like, they are really back to the wall on this, and they got a problem, right? And so I think a ton of people are flooding in wanting to play Dungeons & Dragons, and when they hit that player's handbook, and then when they hit that Dungeon Master Guide, and when they hit the Monster Manual, okay, most people are like, what the heck is this? I can't play this. And I know what you're thinking. A lot of tabletop role players are just, I'm not trying to blow sunshine up anybody's, two cheeks here, but most role players are incredibly smart. It's a reality, right? You don't really get people attracted to a 750-page game, a game with 750 pages of rules, and you don't end up with a bunch of smart people. We have a bunch of smart people, right? But the reality is there's a desire for people to, a lot of video games are turning out that they suck, right? They got one path. They don't really have a lot of flexibility. They have way more less flexibility. And also, video games are really coming up with a lot of empty promises, right? No Man's Sky, right? Like a whole bunch of hey, we're gonna deliver you a million different options, and everybody's like, oh, this is all just algorithmic nonsense, right? Where's the real juice, right? And we have it. Dungeons & Dragons has this ability to create these incredible worlds, right? So it really is amazing, right? So basically they got this problem, and so they're trying to fix it. They're trying to show people Dungeons & Dragons is not as complicated as you think, or it doesn't actually, even more specifically, it doesn't have to be as complicated as you think. Let's look at what they said. So this second video, and I'll put the link below for the exact video that I'm talking about, said that you need 4 things to play D&D. Not 9, not 2, 4. And this is canon, right? This is CANON. This is coming from the big dog, WOTC. And they're saying, this is what you need to play Dungeons & Dragons. Let's see what those 4 things are. This is fascinating. What do you need? You need a friend. A friend, right? Now, what do you mean? What does it mean? I need a friend, right? You need one. You need a dungeon master and one friend. Okay? There's a lot there. Every word counts, right? So they're saying that you need a friend, somebody you know who knows you, right? That's Dungeons & Dragons. You need it. You need one friend. Now, what's interesting is, what if you don't have a friend and you go off like Ironsworn and you're playing by yourself? That ain't Dungeons & Dragons. You need a friend to play Dungeons & Dragons. You can't play it by yourself, right? And the reason why is I'm so glad they made this point, right? D&D solo D&D ain't a thing. And I think they're saying it's never going to be a thing. That's not what this is about. You want to be, a sad sack who plays by themselves and with nobody else? The video game industry is there for you. Have fun. Bye. Right? And I that's huge. It's really important. They're saying you don't need 4 friends. You need one. If you have one friend, you can play Dungeons & Dragons, okay? But if you have 3 other things, what else do you need? Let's get into it, okay? Imagination. So you need your imagination. It's important, and it's a real thing. So if you need imagination, right? So it's really critical that you have imagination to play Dungeons & Dragons. You can't play it without it. You need it. Very, very important. Okay. Second, so a friend, imagination, dice option. You need a dice option. Do you need dice? No, you do not. You need a dice option. Okay. Now, if you're blessed, like you and me, almost certainly, right? Most people who listen to this channel have a set of dice. This isn't a joke. I have no less than 30 pairs of dice. It's 30 sets of dice. In fact, I probably have close to 50. Okay? I have a lot of dice, right? And most DMs, most players have multiple sets of dice. Not everybody does. Who doesn't have dice? Well, prisoners. It's a thing. And also people who aren't really wealthy, right? Like, those are people actually, even people who aren't wealthy, you can get a pair of dice for $1 now. You can get polyhedrals at the dollar store. Kind of even non-wealthy people can get dice now. Pretty much the only people who can't get dice are people in prison. However, Wizards of the Coast is thinking about them, right? Like, they're saying, hey, as long as you have a dice option, like if you literally have a pencil, you could turn that into a D6, right? Just by scrawling some numbers on it. Or if you have pieces of paper or chits or whatever, right? So basically, if you can't have dice, you don't even need dice. You just need a dice option. But you do need it. You need a dice option, okay? What's the last thing you need? The character sheet. You need a character sheet, right? So that's it. That's just 4 things, right? Pretty amazing. So what do you need to play Dungeons & Dragons? Let's look at it. A friend, character sheet, dice option, imagination. 4 things. That's it. Oh boy. Wait until you see what comes next. What do you not need? Okay? I'm not kidding. This video says clearly you need these things. And if you have these things, you can play Dungeons & Dragons. What do you not need? You do not need the rulebook to play Dungeons & Dragons. That's canon from WOTC, from Hasbro. That's incredible. Why would Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro Gaming say this? It doesn't help them, right? They are saying clearly, you do not need the rules to play Dungeons & Dragons. Why would they say this? There's a whole lot of reasons. I'm going to break it down for you. First and foremost, I have heard this, and you've probably heard it as well. I have heard dozens of podcasts with people asking the same question. How did you start playing D&D? And I have heard so many times, someone say, I saw my older sister playing Dungeons & Dragons, and I wanted to play, but I wasn't allowed to play. So me and my friends, we got a piece of paper, and we stole 3 of their dice, and we started playing Dungeons & Dragons without the rules. I've heard it no less than like 3 dozen times, right, from 3 dozen different sources. People see Dungeons & Dragons, and then they make it up, and they just roll without the rules, right? And so Wizards of the Coast is coming in and saying, you don't need the rules to play Dungeons & Dragons. What? That's incredible. It's incredible, right? And I was about to say crazy, but it's not crazy. It's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. And the reason why is it is Dungeons and Dragons saying we own role playing. Right? We own role playing. Role playing for the vast majority of the world is Dungeons and Dragons. And y'all can nitpick and blah 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 and say that indie games are important. Indie games are moons that orbit the planet that is Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is more powerful than as a tabletop role-playing game than all other role-playing games combined. And honestly, if the indie industry doesn't get their heads on straight, it'll be that way for another 25 to 50 years. Okay? The reality is Dungeons and Dragons just has a scale that no other game in the world has. No other tabletop role-playing game in the world has. And they're owning it. They're saying we recognize that our game is so famous and desired so much that we're acknowledging that with these four things you can play, all you need is a friend, a character sheet, a dice option, and an imagination. That's it. That is it. Okay? That's incredible, right? And I think, I'll tell you, this brings tears to my face. It's beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I 100% agree, right? You need a friend, you need a character sheet, you need dice options, and you need imagination. That's all you need to play Dungeons & Dragons. I'm not saying it. Wizards of the Coast is saying it. And they are also saying, you do not need this book. You do not need the DMG, and you do not need the Monster Manual. You do not need the rules to play Dungeons & Dragons. You don't even need to download the free PDF. They're saying, Wizards is saying, yeah, dog, we are tabletop role-playing game, right? And they're right. I agree with them. All hail D&D, man. It is king of the hill, right? And this is incredibly generous, and I think it's beautiful. I am so excited to hear this. I think it's fantastic. All you need is a single friend, a character sheet, a dice option, an imagination, and you are ready to roll. Right? And I'm going to say it again. If you're paying attention, if you don't need rules, how's that a game? It's more than a game. Dungeons & Dragons has always been more than a game. It is a life element, right? It is an element of Americana. It is a vector for art, literature, and gaming, right? It is a vector for art, literature, and a story. It's just a narrative, art, literature, narrative, collaboration, friendship. It's so that much bigger, right? And this is even Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro going and beyond and saying this is more than a product, right? And guess what? That's when products really shine. Harley Davidson, perfect example, right? Harley Davidson realized their bikes are junk. There were decades where their bikes were literally junk, far worse than what you could get off, in any Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki shop, right? But people didn't care because Harley Davidson was a lifestyle. They were willing to pay 3 times as much out right from the gate, 3 times as much to maintain it, right? I knew a dude who paid $18,000 for a Honda, beautiful bike, right? Sold it like a year later at like a 50% loss, and then bought a $25,000 Harley because his friends had laughed him off the road, right? That's the power of D&D. It's so much more than a game, so much more than a product, and WOTC is owning it. All that's my opinion. What do you think? Do you agree with Wizards of the Coast that you do not need the rules to play Dungeons & Dragons? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.